Overcrowded classrooms, underpaid teachers. A group of students so far behind the system has basically given up on them. And a teacher who walks in and says, "Yeah, I used to sit in those exact same desks." That's Welcome Back, Kotter. It premiered in 1975, looked like a simple school sitcom, and then quietly turned into one of the most chaotic, unpredictable classrooms television had ever seen. Because this wasn't just a place for lessons. It was a place where jokes flew faster than logic, authority barely held together, and somehow, against all odds, it still worked. And what was really going on behind that classroom door? Some of it is funny, some of it is messy, and one of these completely changed television history. Stay with us. Because secret number 4 didn't just shake the show, it accidentally created one of the biggest stars in the world. Secret number 1, it was basically real life.
With history?
Yeah, the great French fry phantom.
Here's the first thing that changes everything. Gabe Kotter isn't just a character. He's basically a version of the show's creator, Gabe Kaplan, just slightly polished for TV. Before comedy, before television, Kaplan actually taught in a program for so-called remedial students. Kids the system had already decided weren't going to make it. The sweat hogs.
But why are they called sweat hogs?
Well, that's cute.
They weren't exaggerated inventions. They were built from real students, real personalities, real frustration, real humor. And that's why the classroom feels different. It doesn't feel like a set. It feels like a place where things have already gone wrong, long before the episode even starts. Kotter isn't just teaching. He's navigating something he already lived through. Secret number 2. The chaos was built into the writing. If you watch even a single episode now, you'll notice it immediately. The pacing is fast, almost too fast. Jokes don't just land, they collide. Kotter fires off lines. The sweat hogs jump in. People interrupt each other. Sometimes the audience is still laughing while the next joke is already halfway delivered.
Sure, I'll take poor Linda Block.
And that's not an accident. The show leaned into Kaplan's stand-up rhythm, that rapid, slightly unpredictable delivery. And instead of slowing it down for TV, they pushed it even further. The result? A classroom that feels just barely under control, which is exactly the point. Because this isn't a well-behaved environment. It's chaos, organized just enough to keep the bell from ringing early. Secret number 3, the students were the real story. This might sound obvious, but it matters more than you think. The show is called Welcome Back, Kotter. But it's not really about Kotter. It's about the sweat hogs. And not in a neat, inspirational way either. These aren't students waiting for a breakthrough montage. They're kids who joke because it's easier than admitting they're struggling. Who disrupt because silence would mean confronting failure, and the show never fully fixes them. That's the key. They don't suddenly transform into perfect students. They stay inconsistent, messy, funny, frustrating, human. And for a 1970s sitcom, that's unusual. Secret number 4, it accidentally created a superstar. All right, here's the one that changed everything. When the show started, John Travolta wasn't the star. He was just one of the sweat hogs, Vinnie Barbarino. Charming, confident, a little clueless, and somehow always the center of attention. Then audiences noticed him, really noticed him. The timing, the presence, the way even a small line
Okay, I got it. Ready.
suddenly felt bigger. And almost overnight, he wasn't just part of the group anymore. He was breaking out. Then came Saturday Night Fever, then Grease. And suddenly, the show had a problem it never planned for. One of its main cast members was becoming too big for the show itself. His appearances became less frequent. The group dynamic shifted, and the balance that made the classroom feel so alive started to wobble. This wasn't strategy, it was lightning in a bottle, and it changed the show forever.
You were making this the most humiliating, embarrassing experience of my entire life.
Good, let's keep going.
Secret number 5. The show kept changing its own identity.
Let me go, I know what I'm doing. I got a right to jump. This is America. I got freedom to jump.
Here's where things get a little uneven. In the beginning, the show knows exactly what it is. Fast, grounded, character-driven chaos. But as it goes on, you can feel it searching. Sometimes it leans harder into broad comedy. Sometimes it tries to stay realistic. Sometimes it pushes bigger moments, louder jokes, more exaggerated situations. And part of that is natural. But part of it is pressure. Changing audiences. network expectations, and the absence of a breakout star who was never supposed to leave that space behind. So the show adapts, sometimes successfully, sometimes not quite, but you can feel it trying.
Look, guys, I don't want any trouble. I'm a married man, and I'm just trying to earn a few extra bucks.
Secret number 6, catchphrases were half the show. You already know them. Ooh, Mr. Kotter. Up your nose with a rubber hose. Hi there. These weren't just jokes. They were the engine. In a time before streaming, before rewatches, before clips, the only way a show stayed with you was if you remembered it. And Kotter made sure you did. The catchphrases were repeatable, shareable, instantly recognizable. They turned characters into icons, and they carried the show far beyond the classroom. Secret number 7. It was quietly criticizing the system. Under all the jokes, there's something else running through the show. Frustration. The sweat hogs aren't just problem students. They're students who've already been labeled. Already placed into a category, the system doesn't expect them to escape, and the show doesn't ignore that. Teachers are stretched thin. Authority feels distant. Expectations are low, sometimes from everyone involved. Kotter isn't fixing the system. He's working around it, finding small wins in a structure that doesn't really support big ones. And the show never turns that into a big speech. It just lets it sit there in the background. Episode after episode.
Bad, Vinny Barbarino. You're bad. Bad.
Secret number 8. It burned fast. Welcome back. Kotter ran for 4 seasons, which is solid, but the impact feels bigger than that, because it hit quickly. The characters became recognizable almost instantly. The lines spread. The energy caught on. And for a while, it felt like the show was everywhere. And then, it wasn't. Television shifted. Tastes changed. New formats started taking over. And Kotter, built on that very specific mix of stand-up energy and classroom realism, didn't quite evolve fast enough to stay at the center. It didn't crash. It just faded.
Mr. Kotter, your students are somewhat offbeat.
Secret number 9. It's messier than you remember. If you go back now, there's a slight surprise waiting for you. The show isn't as clean as nostalgia makes it feel. Some episodes are sharp, funny, grounded. Others lean too hard on repetition, or push the characters into more exaggerated territory. And that's not a failure. It's a reminder. This wasn't a perfectly engineered sitcom. It was a show figuring itself out as it went. Experimenting, adjusting, missing sometimes. And honestly, that's part of why it works. Secret number 10. Why the chaos still works.
Excuse me.
So here's the real question. Why does this show still matter? Why does it still come up? It's not just nostalgia. It's because the chaos feels familiar. The feeling of being underestimated, of sitting in a system that doesn't quite know what to do with you, of using humor to get through something you don't fully control. Kotter doesn't fix that. He understands it. And that's the difference. The show doesn't promise transformation. It promises connection. A teacher who gets it, students who don't quite fit, a classroom where things don't always work. But people keep showing up anyway. And maybe that's why it lasts. Not because it was perfect, but because underneath all the noise, all the jokes, all the chaos, it was telling the truth, just a little louder than everything else.